Alright, now that I've finished reviewing each and every Kiss album, it is time to rank them all. And before I get started, I just want to say when it comes to these ranking videos, as always, tell me why I'm wrong down below, okay? But before I get started with the 20 official studio albums and how I rank them, I'm just going to briefly rank the solo albums as well as the live albums. So when it comes to the solo side of things, from most favorite to least favorite, it's Ace, Peter, Paul, and Gene. Though Peter and Paul, they can change on any given day, and I swear I had to stop myself from saying Mary after that, so you can probably already tell based on that how this ranking is gonna be, right? But when it comes to the Alive side of things, I go with Alive 1, 3, 2, and 4. The reason why it's not sequential is based on math. Alive 2, it's got the studio side at the end. Some of the songs I don't really care for, so just based on math, I like more songs on Alive 3 than 2. But all are splendid in my opinion. I was especially surprised with the latter half of Alive, 3 and 4. I wasn't expecting it to be really that great, but honestly, all of them are very well done. So those are my rankings for the solo and live albums. So let's get started with the official 20 studio albums and how I see them fit in terms of rankings. At number 20, we have the bottom of the barrel, the album I despise, and that is Crazy Nights. It's the corporate album, right? Everything is sleek, thin, cheesy, weak. The material is abhorrent, and I know it sold a shit ton of copies, but I don't factor that into the equation, alright? However, like I joked about with Crazy Nights, the track being huge in England, I believe that's why we as the United States divorced from them, right? I can't stand this album. However, if you like it, then hell yeah, that's awesome. But Crazy Nights, absolute bottom of the barrel, number 20 for sure. As for number 19, we have the last official studio album in the discography, and that is being Monster, unless if they do AI albums, which I definitely see them doing that in the near future. I don't hate Monster, but there's just nothing there for me besides the song Take Me Down Below that I really do like. But I gave the analogy of it being an unsatisfying handjob because Kiss tries to replicate the sound and style of the 70s, but does it in a mediocre way. As for number 18, we have Psycho Circus. What a disappointment, because I thought this was gonna be a great Kiss album, right? Like those first 4 tracks I enjoyed it, especially the title track and Within. But once Ace's song Into the Void is over, the album more or less nosedives. It just could have been so much more, right? Instead, it just offers me an EP's worth of material I like. Plus, it's probably telling that the album is more known for the behind-the-scenes tales than the material itself. So, yeah, Psycho Circus, number 18. Very, very disappointing. With number 17, we have the album Animalized, a mixed bag of a record. I like the Paul Stanley songs, but I can totally live without the Gene tracks. However, you do get some great songs on here. I've Had Enough, in parentheses, Into the Fire, Heaven's on Fire, Get All You Can Take, but it's just not enough for me to rank it higher than like a sub 15. As for number 16, we have the album Hot in the Shade. It definitely beats its predecessor, Crazy Night. It's a satisfying record, satisfactory but not sufficient. Most of the album, when it comes to the tracks, not gonna make a lasting impression besides the ballad Forever, but still, I like many of the songs here, both from Paul and Gene, which wasn't the case for Animalized, right? Plus, hey man, you get to hear Eric Carr sing on the track Little Caesar, which is nice. If you like Bon Jovi, check out the song King of Hearts. It's my second favorite song off the album behind Hide Your Heart. As for number 15, we have the album Music from the Elder. It's an album that just about buried Kiss in the grave. Many people despise this album, though I will say in recent years it has gained somewhat of a popularity. At least more people are lifting their heads from their rocks to say that they do like this album. But yeah, because The Elder frequently gets entire sections and books and magazines and documentaries about it being the lowest point in history, right? But personally, I really like this album. Yes, it could have been a lot better had the band not lost their identity and weren't being held together by Elmer's glue and popsicle sticks, and if Bob Ezrin was in a better state of mind and livelihood, yes, this album could have been a lot better. But from what's there, I really like it. I dig the story and what it's presenting. Hey, you know, like Kiss, they go medieval, right? You follow this tale of a boy through the lens of the hero's journey. I think it's a really cool album. With number 14, I'm going with Sonic Boom. It's the album that Psycho Circus should have been. You know, from beginning to end, everything is electric, fun, and rocking. The band successfully captures that 1970s simple Kiss sound. I'm not saying it matches their earlier records because it doesn't, but I don't believe they were trying to. It's a surprising album because I thought it would have been a tired sounding Kiss trying to recapture the glory days of the 1970s, but no, man, they deliver here. It's too bad that they couldn't replicate it for Monster though. But yeah, Sonic Boom, I consider it a very underrated Kiss album. Alright, get the pitchforks and torches out because this witch needs to be burned at the stake. For number 13, I'm going with Love Gun. Don't get me wrong, don't get me wrong. This is a very good album, but it could be better, okay? There are 2 throwaway songs on here, and tracks like Got Love for Sale and Hooligan, I think are very decent, but are ones that I'm not overly fond of. But still, you get some absolute bangers like Love Gun, I'm Almost Human, and Shock Me. Again, it's a really good album, but it's not amazing. Alright, now I'm done being burned at the stake, and now it's time to nail me on a cross, because number 12, I'm going with Dress to Kill. I view this as obviously the third best of the first 3 albums, but that doesn't mean I think it's terrible, okay? Far from it. I love most of the songs here, but it's easy to speculate that the album could have been more fleshed out and expanded upon had the band had a more appropriate length of time to create this album. You know, Neil Bogart told the band to get started on this album when they were touring for Hotter Than Hell, and given that Kiss had just released 2 albums prior, each separated by 6 months, it's easy to say that the songs could have been stronger if they were given a window of breathing time. Okay, now that I ran most of you guys off, let's go with number 11, Carnival of Souls, The Final Sessions. Kiss embraces the grunge heavy metal scene. This album is notorious for not being known, or at least, not well known. You can thank the reunion for that though, but honestly, I think that this beats The Elder in terms of obscurity, because again, The Elder gets mentioned a lot as the low point of the band, while this album's just there. Like, you gotta go out of your way to find it, it seems. But hey, man, I really enjoyed this album, and I was surprised by Kiss doing grunge. It was like the ultimate sign of pandering, and really all I knew about this was, oh, it's that one Kiss grunge album, so I didn't really know what to think of going in. But hey, man, I came out a really big fan, and yeah, it is weird hearing them do this sound, but in my mind, they were able to make this album and incorporate the genre quite smoothly. With number 10, we have Unmasked. If Dynasty could divide the fandom, then this caused the remaining fans to say fuck it, alright? At least in the US side of things. But given I was born decades after this, I don't carry in those personal feelings, alright? It's a goofy, poppy, neutered album for sure, but I'll be damned if it doesn't bring me a lot of joy. Practically every song I love, tracks like Naked City, Talk to Me, Is That You, Easy As It Seems, I just think they're so well done. Again, cheesy as all hell for sure, but hey man, it makes the top 10 for me, so sue me. For number 9, we have Asylum. Fuck yeah, this album rules. This is the best hair metal album they did in the 80s. And I'm not counting Lick It Up as a hair metal genre because it's much heavier in my opinion. But man, Gene delivers here. His material, it's much better than what came on Animalize or Will Be with Crazy Nights. Each song, definitely a blast. Paul's voice is incredible. Bruce Kulick, Eric Carr, they're on fire. And again, Gene's songs, I feel they live up to the strengths of the other members. I'll even go on record and say Gene's song Trial by Fire is one of my favorites by him. I can't get enough of this record. For number 8, I'm going with the magnum opus, Destroyer. It's the album you picture of when you think of Kiss. The history is quite interesting, starting off hot, then cooled, then found second life thanks to Beth. You got juggernauts like Detroit Rock City, King of the Nighttime World, God of Thunder, Beth, shout it out loud. You know, Bob Ezrin and the band, they delivered, even if it can feel overly theatrical. As for number 7, I'm going with Revenge. Speaking of Bob Ezrin, he returns to help Kiss create a solid hard rock heavy metal album. The material here is strong. It's a 1970s Kiss sound, but utilizing the years of experience the band had accumulated and the production whiz of Bob Ezrin was able to morph this earlier sounding Kiss material into the modern age. Just great. Like, again, you take the 70s material, you refine it, you put all these years of experience and technical wizardry with Bob Ezrin, and you create a hard rock heavy metal album. This was something that for a while I consider a top 5, but when I really did think about it and write this down, I found some records to be just a little more favorable than this. But regardless, Revenge is a fantastic album. With number 6, I'm going with Hotter Than Hell, the second studio album for Kiss, one that is plagued by murky production. But hey man, it doesn't bother me. However, if you are keen on production and you want it to sound polished and clean, perhaps this wouldn't be your cup of tea. But I find the production to play a factor in the atmosphere of the songs. I mean, think of tracks like Parasite, Strange Ways, Going Blind. I just think that the murky production totally complements those type of tracks. There's some great stuff on here. As for number 5, I chose Rock and Roll Over. It takes the polished nature of Destroyer and implements it into a classic sounding first 3 Kiss album. Just full of amazing sounding guitars, drums, and vocals. And with it being 8 months after Destroyer, you can just immediately tell that the band is full of confidence. I love most of the songs on here, but there are a couple I wish could have been reworked, such as Ladies Room and See You in Your Dreams, which just repeats the chorus ad nauseum. But still, obviously, top 5 for me, Rock and Roll Over, I absolutely love. With number 4, let's go with Dynasty, the album that divided the fan base and is labeled as a disco album even though it's not. You get the Kiss song that Kiss fans pretend to hate in I Was Made for Loving You. You also get some other great tracks such as 2000 Man, Magic Touch, and Save Your Love. While I would have preferred if this album were less polished and more heavy, this practically checks all the boxes for me. But, you know, perhaps I would have a much different outlook on this if I had been around when this came out, but I wasn't, so I really do like Dynasty, as you can tell. Number 4 for me. Okay, as for number 3, I'm going with the debut album, Kiss. Usually it looks kind of bad when your very first album and your very first song are considered your best, because that sounds like everything after sucked, but that's not the case, you know. This is a fantastic introduction from the band, and, you know, while Paul and Gene wrote most of the songs when they were under the old band, Wicked Lester, it doesn't negate the fact that there are many terrific tracks here, and, you know, since this is their first album, you know, the recording and production aren't that great, but the way it sounds gives it a more garage rock feel. There's no question about it though. The debut, just amazing, and it makes my top 3. As for the number 2, I went with Lick It Up. Oh, what a shock. The top 2 picks are gonna be the heaviest albums that Kiss ever made, right? But screw it, that's how I feel, alright? You got Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, Eric Carr, Vinnie Vincent creating magic together. Every song is a banger, whether it's the explosiveness of Exciter, or Give Me More, or the wickedness of Not For The Innocent, or Fits Like a Glove. Hell, even the drop-dead beautiful ballad of A Million to One. Kiss crushed it here. It was time for a change. Sayonara to the makeup, and they delivered on that in a record that constantly rotates on the player. And for my number 1 pick, yes, I am predictable, but I do not apologize for it. It is Creatures of the Night. There is no denying the explosiveness of this record. Everyone is on fire and just pouring everything they have into it. If you love heavy metal, hard rock, check this album out. It's terrific. Incredible drumming by Eric Carr, electrifying guitars, outstanding vocals from Paul and Gene. It's one of my favorite Kiss albums, absolutely no question about it. But now, it's time to play a game of tricks, to see who clicked on this video and skimmed to the very end to see what I picked. Are you ready? Let's play the game. And my number one pick as my favorite Kiss album has got to be Monster. Their last one in the discography, and it is an absolute banger. Every song on here is a Kiss staple, alright? They just nailed it here. Paul's voice is the best we ever heard on a Kiss album. Tommy and Eric, they truly stand as being the best versions of the Spaceman and Catman. You know, they just put Ace and Peter to shame. You know, that this band, this culmination, this is the true Kiss, if you ask me, okay? Everyone else, they just couldn't live up to it, and I'm glad that Paul and Gene finally found band members who can live up to the task. Alright, there you go. That is my Kiss album ranking. Let me know why I'm wrong down below, or if you would like to be a little more nice, you can let me know what your favorites are. You can do top 5, top 10, you can say screw it and do all 20. I'll be very, very curious to see what you guys have to say. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and take care.